careful, please. That elite was an ultra.
The letter of the law and the spirit of the law, a topic that frequently comes up on your mission, in which your companion explains for hours that according to the spirit of the law, it's okay to break the letter of the law. And where your next companion will be screaming at you for being 1 minute late because that's the letter of the law. So, interesting topic. What exactly does this spirit of the law, letter of the law thing mean? What was Christ referring to? And there's quite a problem. We will discuss quite a brewing financial inequality that exists in our culture. So, first things first, my phone is having an aneurysm because it got broken by a chair that attacked me in an alleyway. It was not its fault though. Socioeconomic factors. So, today we will be discussing how to not pay tithing and lose 0 blessings, guaranteed. Only 22 payments of $19.99 plus interest. This is an art that was first mastered in ancient Israel by the old masters. Jesus Christ, he talked about the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law when he was criticizing these guys, these Pharisee guys, right? And he told the rich man to sell all his possessions to follow him, and he was not willing. When you apply these techniques, don't come cry to me when you go to 9% heaven, okay? Jokes aside, the church was never really meant to exist in this turbo-capitalist world that we live in. When you read D&C 42, and it tells about the law of consecration, it's not something that we focus on. We're not living it. The Brigham City Co-op, Orderville, all these other co-op efforts, ZMCI has been sold, the Zionist, or whatever, mercantile group thing. These businesses, the church hospital, sold because some business consultants said, this is not financially viable. And I guess we're running a business here, not building a kingdom, because a kingdom needs a hospital. IHC is almost certainly one of the heads of the beast mentioned in Revelation, upon which rides the whore of Babylon. It's probably like the 3rd or the 4th head. Whichever one is the ugliest, that's probably IHC. Just look at their new logo and close your eyes. And you know how sometimes you'll see those little star patterns? Well, you'll see the beast flashing before your very eyes. It's quite demonic. We live in this world of tax write-offs and businesses, and we have a church that has unpaid clergy. And so you may have noticed that those who are frequently selected to become spiritual leaders are merely those who have the capacity to do so because they are financially self-sufficient. I don't know what my mission president did for a living, but it was something to do with insurance, something in that fire sector, which is the most honest and virtuous portion of the economy. I love my mission president, but still, that is where he was from. That's where his background was from. In today's world, you have to spend like 40% of your year doing nothing. Like, if you had to pay your taxes all up front, I don't think you would start getting paid at your job till like January or something. Or not January, June. You wouldn't start getting paid until June or something, okay? And in the Book of Mormon, we learn about King Noah, and he was really, really wicked. He was really wicked because he charged the people 20%, and he had a lot of women and wine or something. And King Noah seems pretty moderate by today's standards. He seems, he's like a middle of the road guy, a reasonable fellow. King Noah for president. Even King Noah, he might think that some of these digital pesticides that these sales bros are slapping together, in their Southeast Asian computer sweatshops. He might even be above that, hey guys, hear me out, but let's just make a big building with some nice wood and a tower and invite some girls over. Let's not do this whole thing where we're trapping a small genie in a piece of silicone so that we can traumatize 6-year-olds with nightmare fuel images, okay? Well, maybe let's not do that. And then King Noah, he gets replaced by, the Lamanite king, who's he's doing 50%, and that's more on our speed, That's how we like it, straight into the vein, 50%. And truly we live in mighty years. Quite sundry ways of the ways we live, right? So anyway, how do you escape this? How do you escape this grip of the boa constrictor, that it will wring every last drop. Taxes! You know, like the lion from the Robin Hood movie. Squeeze every last drop. That guy, you know, Prince John. How do we get rid of this? So there's this thing called small business owner. When you're a small business owner, you create an entity. You can think of it almost like a little voodoo doll, and then you can then stick all your financial needles into the voodoo doll, and you can kind of trick. All your tax liability goes into these little voodoo dolls, these LLCs and corporate things, and you can create a corporate structure. If you have a family business, you can create a corporate structure where all your family members are members of the board, and we got a board meeting in Hawaii. Sorry, it's a business expense, you know, duty calls. And by doing all this, it's with a clever accounting and a good tax structure, you can legally kind of reduce your tax liability. And this is by design. The government wants to encourage people to run businesses, so they give people kind of these benefits. And this is why you hear stuff about, Bernie Sanders, he didn't pay any taxes, or Donald Trump doesn't pay any taxes. Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't, because he's smart. When we hear about these Ryan Smiths, Mitt Romneys, Elon Musk, he's worth $1 billion. You think that means he pays $1 billion in tithing? He has $1 billion nickels in his Zions Bank checking account? Is that what you think is going on? Because that's not what's going on. That's his net worth. All of his money is tied up in his assets, which is his business. His personal checking account is probably he probably makes like $10,000 a year, you know? Maybe his businesses pay taxes, but his personal taxes? No, he doesn't pay anything. He's probably like below the poverty line. And what does this mean? So the people who are financially self-sufficient, they get this. And they're being picked, since we don't have a paid clergy, they're the ones who are being elevated among us, kind of raised up as the most spiritual. But here's the thing that I am not quite sure of. You pay tithing on your personal income. And so, how does this exactly work? If you are a business owner who has been doing all this tax stuff to avoid paying taxes, I mean, I'm not saying tax evasion, but just like trying to legally reduce your tax exposure in every way possible. If you're doing that, doesn't that also reduce your tithing exposure in a sense? I mean, obviously you don't have to pay tithing if you don't want to, but Ryan Johnson, the billionaire, you know, does he pay $1 billion in taxes? No, or not in taxes. Does he pay 10% of everything he makes to the church? No. And he's probably rich enough that if he wanted to get like a meeting with one of the 15, he could probably make a phone call and ask a favor, which is just not fair. This is just not fair. When these annoying, these annoying ankle-biting leftists who leave the church, they have these criticisms about the church finances. They're not giving away all their money. They didn't give all their money away to build wells in Africa that will not be maintained. They didn't do it. They're not really charitable. Yeah, of course we're not going to give away all our money, okay? I actually think it's awesome that the church is doing everything in its power to protect our tithing and protect our money. You know, I think that's wise of them. And as far as the billionaire malls or whatever, I think that's good. I mean, we should own property. We should own things, but I think we don't go far enough. I think that we seem to be doing really good in the investing, speculating market, but as far as, you know, having like actual production, like actually have a self-sufficient economy here in Utah, I don't know if we're doing that, frankly. And I think that's a betrayal of the original vision of Utah. I think the goal was to be self-sufficient. This is why the ZMCI was created, was to help us be able to get, you know, basic necessities like sugar, clothing, string, you know, without being price gouged by our loving Christian neighbors who, this is just a side note, but they bully us for, you're not Christian. And no one even understands what a Christian is. So, yeah, we're Christian. Okay, guys, come on. Learn what different words mean. And then, you know, this is a different topic, but skip that. We'll do a different video. Anyway, so the corporate structure, Oh, yeah. So Protestants, they were price gouging us on sugar and string, and so Brigham Young said, this is unacceptable. We're going to try and produce everything here. And if we can't produce it here, or if there's not a business to produce it here, then we're going to pool our resources as a church, and we're going to get it so that we can all do it. And then we got people like through the Perpetual Immigration Fund or whatever, people would come here and we'd be able to give them a job, and we'd be able to give them skills. Like, I'm glad that we build so many temples, and I'm actually really glad that they are built by, a Mormon construction company. I'm a little curious to know how many like illegals are employed or non-members are employed by these groups like Jacobson, and maybe there's a lot of legal restrictions. Can't exactly discriminate, but I think that's kind of a cop-out. I think that there are very legal ways that we can achieve our goals, and I don't think that we need to wear like old-timey vests and walk around with walking sticks and chortle to each other, with our pocket watches. Like, we can live in the modern world, and we can live in the reality of being under the umbrella of the American government, but we can still like seek for this community, this level of cooperation. It's not illegal, though it may cause legal problems, like civilly. But I think that that's the point of it. And so, yeah, Jacobson, they get to build temples. That's great. But I want to build temples, I want to be a part of it. Like my ancestors or our ancestors, they built Salt Lake Temple, Logan Temple, Manti, St. George. All these temples were built by the people who were going to be there. And I think that is building the temple is a huge part of preparing to go to the temple. And now, maybe we don't have the skills to build temples. Not everyone is a contractor. Well, maybe that's part of the problem. I mean, if we're going to be a temple building people, then the people should be able to build temples. It's great that there's hundreds of temples, but if there is an area where the members are not able to, band together to build a temple, a proper temple, then maybe they don't deserve one, or they don't want one yet. So that's stuff to be thinking about. We just live in this world of like Netflix subscriptions. Everything's got to be a subscription-based thing, and I just think that sometimes, I think I've mentioned this before, but like certain monetization models really hold us back on making something great. Like I use the example of like the game industry and like paywalls and microtransactions and subscriptions. They really seem to lower the bar of quality. And that's rich coming from me. Low quality. We're just cranking these out here, this slop for y'all. Anyway, the real gospel, understanding the principles of the gospel seem to be getting less and less accessible. Maybe it's because of this strange... Tithing has been a good stepping stone, and we've used it to build this, quote, global empire, which is kind of a cool quote, global empire. But if you read D&C 42... we need more. It's got to be more than this. It's honestly kind of hard to stay in the church if you're not willing to just say, Book of Mormon, when I read it, it makes me feel good, and I like thinking about Jesus, so where do I fill out my tithing slip? Thank you. I'll be back next week. And if you don't have that attitude, then sometimes it can be kind of hard to grapple with a lot of these really complicated questions, really, really, really stressful ideas. And they're so stressful that most people don't want to engage with them. They're very skittish. I just think that we have the potential to be so great and so much more and really be an ensign, a city on the hill to the world. We have everything necessary to build something truly remarkable, something that can truly withstand Armageddon. Whatever gets blown towards us from the east wind or the west wind, whichever one is the bad one. Money's not evil. My grandpa, he said money's good only for two things, and that's feeding kids and building churches. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. He was a good guy, and he fed a lot of kids, and some of them weren't his own. And I think for some reason we think that this idea of going to get a job so you can be an engineer or a software developer and sit all day so that the Mark Cubans or the Mark Zuckerbergs or the Mark whoever's of the world, they can go on a podcast and talk about how they're great inventors. We invented this. I invented this. I did this. Oh, I invented this. Yeah, no, you didn't. Okay, billionaires, they don't work a billion times harder. They're good at selling things. And the only thing that's worth billions of dollars is a human soul. And you heard it here first. So I want to have a co-op. I want to do it. I don't know how we can achieve this, but it's just gotta... We have all the pieces. I feel like the culture could really just be activated. I think people are just desperate for it. They want to be asked for more. But just the goals here, I don't know. They're not very inspiring to me. I mean, we can build 1 million temples, but why? Like, do we really need to endow everyone? I mean, people don't really want to be endowed when they're alive. You think they're going to want to be endowed when they're dead? It's probably about the same amount. Is that it's a very small percentage of the world really wants to be endowed, and it's mostly friends and family. So everything seems to be pushing towards this kind of throughput production, like a factory. With like the Salt Lake Temple, they ripped out all the rooms so that they could have like 5 or 6 endowment rooms, and we can get through X many endowments per minute. We can do 50 widgets per second, and it's just like, is this who we are? Is this fulfilling the full measure of our creation? I just feel like if things go on the way they are, all of our leadership is just going to be like these dude bro drop shipper guys, hustler university, blah blah blah, all this stuff, and it just looks a little grim. There's a small town in Utah that the mayor really wanted this door factory to get opened up because it's going to be good for jobs, and it's like, no one is going to work in the door factory. That's not, the people who own the door factory, that's not their business model. Their business model is employing illegals who work for slave wages, That's their business model. So this is not going to be good for the community. I don't even know why you're doing it. Like, is someone paying you? Like, why are you cheerleading this thing? The city council's there. Ugh. Everyone just wants to line their own pockets. Everyone's got to get their pound of flesh. Elon Musk, he's been so based on Twitter, and now it's all just, it's actually just about saving money with the H-1B visa stuff. He needs to get his cheap tech workers. I wish that our politicians were different, but I don't really like any of them. They all kind of suck. And yeah, I don't know how we can go healing this rift, but I know that the United Order efforts that ate together, like communal eating, those were the ones that worked. And that's a really good argument for family dinners and why they're important, to sit down. Even when you're having arguments, even when, it's not the best. It's kind of like when you sleep and your body heals, that's kind of that's where your relationships grow and heal, is over the dinner table. Seem to be so worried about the temples and stuff that we're losing sight of meaning. And when we talk about like these Pharisees or whatever, the Pharisees, they have this oral tradition about all these particular rituals, and there's different types of, there's various traditions, there's the Sadducees and stuff like that, and they disagree about the meaning of particular rituals. But as long as you agree on the ritual, then it's all good. There's this really cool article and a book by this guy named Israel Shahak or something like that. But he talks about kind of this problem, because the Pharisees, they're not gone. Their oral tradition was preserved and eventually written down in a book called the Talmud. And some of the, loophole attitude is very bizarre. Like, apparently in Israel, like modern day Israel, all the land is sold to a Gentile every single Saturday so that they can continue to do the work of growing the crops. But then it's sold back as soon as the Sabbath is over, and it's forbidden to sell land in Israel to a Gentile. But since it's not really getting sold, it's just temporary being sold, then it's okay and you're all good. Or there's this issue with like blue milk. And with the blue milk, basically milk isn't blue. And it's against the rules to milk a cow. But if the milk is blue, then you're not milking a cow. So cows need to be milked even on the Sabbath. So you're going to milk them onto the ground. Just because you're not milking them, you're relieving them of their pain. So you're milking it onto the ground. But if someone forgot to put the bucket away, the milk bucket away, and you relieve the cow onto the ground, and the bucket happened to be left there, then whatever. You just leave it in the bucket. It's no big deal. And then if someone else walks by and they see the bucket and they put it away, they're just seeing a bucket of milk and they're putting it away, and it's got blue dye in it. So it's not really milk. And this is just like one level of all these bizarre things. We can disagree over whether this piece of bread is supposed to be for Satan or for God, but we're not going to disagree on whether or not the bread has leavening in it. And this is the real spirit of the law, letter of the law mentality. And when we have the letter of the law mentality with tithing and kind of, okay, how can I get as rich as possible and pay as little tithing as possible? And it's really just not good, and it seems unfair. And I feel like if average members kind of put 2 and 2 together, like, I'm not trying to be critical. When we recognize problems, then we can solve problems. So yeah, I mean, if we do go into hyperinflation, it might be a good idea to pay your tithing at the end of the month when it's not worth anything. And this is just a loser mentality. This is the hungry hippos mentality. Enjoy the decline. And I don't want to enjoy the decline. I want to build Zion. And somehow we have got to wake everyone up as to what's the real goal here. What's the end game? Make a billion temples and wait for God to come solve all our problems? There's the quote from Brigham Young. He says, "We're not going to wait for Enoch and angels to show up and build Zion. We are going to build it." It's something along those lines. And that's the attitude that we've got to have. So those are some thoughts about tithing and how to avoid it and why it's all kind of silly and what we should be striving for instead. And I hope that was thought-provoking. So have a good one.